Hello everyone, welcome to the County Buzz. I'm Dick Wolff. A week or so ago I went to Grundy County to meet with a couple of folk who knew a thing or two about off-roading. Iva Michelle Russell, she's the host of Grundy County TV6 and is also an off-roader. She invited Bob Yarbrough, a veteran roader and a member of Tennessee Trails and Greenways Council. They were trying to teach me something about roading, and it worked. We sat in for a chat, but before we could say welcome, we were on the air. This was our beginning.
Conservation, environmentalism is kind of a cross-political breed, I would say. Like, I think we all love the Mother Earth. And so there was a cleanup going on down in Franklin County.
Yes.
That one of our, I'm not an off-roader. I am a person whose hobby is the legislative process. Let me just go on and say that I don't off-road. Love it, think it's fabulous, 100% appreciate it and its mission. So, but I'm not an off-roader. So anyway, you wanted to do a story. You're with the Franklin County Buzz.
Franklin County Buzz, a partner.
All right. His name's Dick Wolff. And a little research, you were retired from, like, I think I saw ABC Nightly News, or, I mean, I'm like going, wow. That's cool. Tell us a little bit about your thing. Well, anyway, we're going to do an interview. We're going to kind of do a reverse interview, and he's going to interview me. And we've got another fellow, Bob Yarbrough, that is going to be coming. He's coming from Nashville and probably got lost. If you enter in 383 Forest Point Road, you kind of go somewhere else. Our GPS, you can't find us. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Oh, wow.
Congressman Desjardins had to be led in by his staffers because his driver couldn't find us.
No comment.
Mm-hmm. Don't you start that. Now, anyway, so Trump won yesterday, by the way, in Indiana, real big, and Bernie Sanders won big. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That was like shocking.
How could you not see that?
Well, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's such great TV. I mean, honestly. So anyway, so we're going to talk about off-roading. Let's go back on topic. We're going to go talk on off-roading. Which is basically riding, ATVs, off-highway motorcycles, those cool side-by-sides, the Razors. Those are all the rage around here. Everybody wants to get in those Cadillacs. And yeah, they are Cadillacs, because when you get older, you don't learn to jar so much. When I come into $1 million or even less, I'm going to get one of those Razors, because that's how you get into the woods, and you get to experience paradise, where sometimes when you get old, your body fails. And like you can't hike like you used to, so
I get that.
You get that. So we're going to do a reverse interview. He's got a show. It's a video. Does it go on TV? What does it do?
It's a webcast.
Livecast.
Yes.
Okay, and then
webcast on Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, all the social media.
All that social media thing. I haven't even figured out the Twitter thing.
It's a newspaper that fits on your smartphone. That's what we do.
So that's what you started down at Franklin County.
Yes.
Cool. And so this topic, you were fascinated by, AJ's efforts, and then you started doing some digging.
AJ Ladd is a Facebook friend and a personal friend, and he's very active in off-roading, and he's part of the cleanup crew that he organized. Every year he does it. And they bring out truckloads, literally truckloads of trash. And there's a new TDEC, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, has a new tract of land that they're going to be beginning to look at as to how can we allow public access to this, and trails, I believe, are going to be part of that. And the week following this interview, what we're going to do is we're going to talk with the people from TWRA and see what they have in mind for this, because we think there's a great number of off-road folks in both of our communities that really want to take advantage of the Tennessee outdoors. They don't want to despoil it. They're responsible off-roaders, and I gathered that there are some that are less responsible, the ones that leave the trash there. And so we thought that this was a news story that we could not do because our community is so involved. We've got a dealer. You mentioned Razors. I mean, the time was when a four-wheeler was an old Jeep that somebody, hacked together and took off-road. But now they've got some really fine equipment. It's expensive equipment, and it's a part of our business community. We need to support that. We need to support the recreational opportunities for riders, drivers, and then we also need to take care of the environment. And I think it's all about access, and I'm looking forward to Mr. Yarbrough coming here because he's a past board member for the Tennessee Trails and Greenways.
Oh, he's still on it.
Oh, he's still on it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then they've got a meeting coming up at the
Yeah.
end of this month.
Yeah.
So he's no doubt will shed a lot of light on this ignorant soul, and maybe get some more information out there for our riders and off-road people.
Well, and I'm a big fan of always knowing the history of something before you delve into finding solutions.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I know.
Because you've got the history.
Yeah,
and,
I had to do a quick catch-up. I ran for, I'm the National Off-Highway Vehicle Conservation Council state partner for the state of Tennessee. So there's 50 state partners, or more so, and then associate partners. And NOVAC was set up 25 years ago by the industry itself to educate people on how to ride these safely and not trashing the environment, like a tread lightly aspect, educating the public. Because there's so much to be said about off-roading. I ran for state representative in 2006. That was how I got into it. And back then, my district was Grundy County, Marion County, Sequatchie, and Van Buren. So it was that district. And when you go on the campaign trail, you find out the issues. You, in theory, talk to people, right? Isn't that the whole thing about campaigning? Is that you want to hear what the people have to say?
Of course, it's their government.
Right. I mean, in theory, that's how it's supposed to work. So I'm a Reagan Republican. So I really wanted to get on the issues. So of course, jobs. 2006. We're jobs. Although it was a boomtown for us. Like and this is what led to the off-roading thing, is that up here on the mountain are large tracts of land that people traditionally rode off-roading on, for generations. My granddaddy with the first motor got, we were there, It's either horseback or even the motorized. So, those what was those timber companies that got sold up here? The big Bowater, and so one of the major issues was quality of life. People love to get off-road and be in the woods.
Yes.
I mean, I don't care if you are outside, you cannot not be happy.
John Muir said that.
I believe so. And John Muir is out there. I just saw a documentary on him, and I think that's so cool. But yeah, I mean, you've got to, it was an issue. We were losing the land. And there was an off-road club here, a 4x4 club called the Dam Locals, in Tracy City, and that were very passionate about the trail cleanups, and because one of the issues is that we trash our own land. I mean, it's sad that I can't even imagine, even during Mardi Gras, I would not throw a can down on the ground, even though there was a million cans or whatever down there. So it's how you brought up, right? You're supposed to respect Mother Earth. So that was one of the biggest issues. And then Southern four-wheel drive, I lost big on 2006. But the passion is still there, and that's how I met Bob Yarbrough. Were you president at that time when y'all hired me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So they had a big meeting in Tracy City. Southern Four-Wheel Drive Association holds quarterly meetings in different places, right? Isn't that how that works? And so one of the Tracy City, because of the great trails that are kind of illegal, we had permission, I think, is how it worked.
Correct.
Correct. We had permission for that ride. And that's when Southern Four-Wheel Drive always been active in this whole process. And then you get up to speed. Then he's like, well, can you move forward? This was my job in 2007, January, was, can you move the Tennessee Off-Highway Vehicle Act forward? That's what we want you to do. There's already a law in place. Just move the dang thing forward.
Yeah.
Right? The hard work's been done. It started in the 90s. As a governor's, Tennessee Governor Sundquist, his inner circle people had summer homes here.
Oh, that helps.
Yeah. And so they always off-road. I mean, our biggest events here in Monteagle, I mean, you'd have mecca of people coming in on Memorial Day weekends. Smokehouse was, I mean, it is a money driver. So, and these guys love to do it. The 90s also started the RTP program too. I think it started getting in 2001, the Recreational Trails Program.
Right.
That legislation in DC was starting to kind of evolve and take wind, and they got it because trail people all stick together in theory. So we as a coalition helped create that recreational trails program, and actually the money comes from off-roading.
It comes from the
Gas tax.
that is not used on the highways. There's a certain amount of riding. And
Right.
That's refunded to the states throughout the country.
This is part of the federal tax?
This is the
Correct.
federal tax, yeah. So it's funded, and each state gets their, proportion to the number of off-roaders. I believe it's proportionate.
I don't know if it's off-roaders or it's proportionate to people.
Is it
We
proportionate?
get in Tennessee, it's probably close to 1.6 million a year is the refund.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a nice little string, and I think it could change if some of the dynamics would change. But that's another story for
Are
another
those
day.
matching funds, Bob?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, you'll get most, well, I say those funds, no, that's not matching. The grants that can be applied are matching.
I understand.
Okay, and that's split actually 30% motorized recreation, 30% non-motorized, and 40% is multi-use.
Okay.
So and Bob, in fact, that's the other next part of the story, is that through this movement, he created the act, Blue Ribbon Committee. The governor created a Blue Ribbon Committee of, every Department of Agriculture, because that's a lot of our land.
I read the list.
TWRA, the whole list, Four-Wheel Drive Association, the motorcyclists, everybody got involved, came up with a great plan, came up with the legislature, the stuff. And then the funding, I think, fell apart during
Correct.
committee. Everything always, committee things get hairy. I've gotten into screaming matches at back door because you're just like, really, you're just, but I've cast hate out of my heart. So anyway, so it got passed, and the sponsors of this legislation were then Senator Ron Ramsey, and then Representative, what was his name? And I know it so passionately. He is Speaker Harwell's chief of staff guy. What is his name? Oh, anyway, that's going to kill me. We're going to think of it. Anyway, so those were the two sponsors. It got through. It settled into TWRA because they felt that they had the better systems in place.
They had already been given the voter registration.
Yes,
Right.
and they hated that.
They were handling that, and they've got wildlife management, so it just became I think the easier way to say they're going to be in charge of it.
And TWRA didn't want it. I mean, that's just, but it had to go somewhere.
Right.
So we got it, and they got the money for the motorized
The
portion.
motorized portion.
That goes to the North Cumberlands. It
That's
used to
correct.
be Royal Blue. It was a prototype program that was supposed to be started in the state of Tennessee for a park-like. That was their prototype. At least that was what it was sold for. I mean,
Correct.
according to the paperwork. So anyway, so they've gotten all the motorized. Royal Blue is beautiful. I mean, it is a stunning piece of property. There's a campground there that is private, that they do a public-private partnership. It's really a good setup. I mean, is it a great trails? I mean, probably no.
So the 1.2 million that comes to Tennessee from the federal government, 30% of that goes to off-road
Correct.
trail development and
we're going to call it motorized recreation.
Motorized recreation.
And then the mixed portion, that's 40%. Is some of that included in off-road?
It can.
Could be, but
If it-
doesn't have to be. It
I
can
got
be equestrian, hiking,
multi.
Right.
mountain biking.
Right.
Okay, and Bob, you've been involved in this off-road business for how long, and how did you get
Pretty
into
close
it?
to 25 years.
25. That was the old Jeep days, wasn't it?
Well, it was, but when my kids finished school, I decided I wanted a Jeep and read about Jeep Jamborees, and I went on one in 1993 and kind of got bit, and that's how I got involved in it, and then progressed into several different positions over the years. Really, I did a lot of riding out west also, and saw what they had done, and I kept thinking, we can do this in Tennessee, we can do it in Tennessee. So I've been passionate about pursuing a statewide system or trail system in Tennessee.
Do you think the West had an advantage because there's so many public lands there?
The BLM land
Yeah.
and Forest Service, yes they
Yeah.
do.
And they also been to the west, so Iva is familiar with the western trails out there as well.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that brings into, though, the fact that, so you've got this program, but nothing's going on because it's not funded. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's not funded. So, that's 2004 probably, 3-4, and we lost a governor. Governor Sundquist did not, go re-election. He had 8 years in, I think is what it was. So Governor Bredesen wasn't kind of a big priority for him. He had health care that he had to deal with. So it kind of got lost in the shuffle, and then we started it up again. So 2007, Commissioner Fike for TDEC was in on the original Blue Ribbon group for the past governor. So he helped wrestle away $1 million from TWRA to build a park, or 3 parks. So that's happened in 2010. We got the money because the National Greenways and Trails Symposium, National Trail Symposium was chosen for Chattanooga by the big national organization because it is such an outdoor friendly city. So they chose it. Commissioner Fike in 2010 made the big announcement at the symposium that we would get.
Right. There are actually 2 grants that were issued. They were $400,000 apiece.
Right.
Okay, and had to be an 80-20 match. So with the first one, Southern Four-Wheel Drive agreed to match the other 100, so that gave them $500,000 on that. And then actually nobody else applied for the other one. So the Coalmont area, they applied again, and it was awarded to them. I think the city was coming up with $100,000, and then the grant was $400,000. So that's where the $1 million came from.
And it was, and we started, and when this announcement, they gave us 3 months to find, we wanted to get an East Tennessee, a Middle Tennessee, and a West Tennessee pilot project. That was our intent. That was the whole memorandum of understanding or agreement that we would try each grand division. All right, but they gave us 3 months to apply. Have you ever tried to get a local government, because that was a component, to agree to partner with a program like that?
I wrote grants for the federal government, so the answer to that question is no.
It's not. It is. I mean, there. It's a long, and local government's it's faster, but it's definitely 3 months to get a application in is insane. It was February 14th, 2011, at noon. So we worked on Southern Four-Wheel Drive and Novak, and everybody local. Steve Melton was huge in it. Huge. Got our Southeast Tennessee Development District write a grant. We asked Tracy City first. Tracy kind of said no. The mayor wanted, but the council kind of didn't. So we went to Coalmont. We had a young mayor, Aaron May, who was probably too young enough and full of energy to know that it couldn't work. So
That's the kind of people
because you're like, yeah, why? Because like me. Why not? I mean, right?
So we're getting up to date.
We're getting up to date. That's how kind of get up there. So Coalmont and then Doe Mountain during the same process. We had a new governor, Governor Haslam. Lieutenant Governor Ramsey, became lieutenant governor. They bought their county mayor a mountain for off-road multi-use.
Right, Doe Mountain.
Doe Mountain. They bought him a mountain and that goes back to the Trail Symposium. We had Mayor Vaughn there from Cott County, East Tennessee, who desperately wanted that money, and he couldn't because of the public land issue. And he came to a meeting we had in Cott County, and then Mayor, oh my gosh, I can't remember. Doe Mountain says, "Hey, that's a great idea." And this is out in Johnson County. This is
Upper East Tennessee.
the farthest you can get up there, really rural. And so they bought him a mountain. So during this process, Coalmont came along, and we were there going the process. So there's a new announcement coming up with Coalmont, actually, probably. So speaking of local issues, talked to Gerald Parrish yesterday.
Okay.
So it looks like after 2011, 5 years, the Coalmont project will move forward. So locally, we'll probably have an off-road park.
Inch by inch. So that brings us to today.
Yeah.
And actually, there's probably a proliferation of off-roaders because of the technology. You mentioned razors, and that's the second time I've mentioned it. The technology now is there's a huge market for off-road vehicles, and is the market growing faster than the trails?
Mm-hmm.
By far.
That's where I wanted
And
to
if you
go.
really back up a little bit more, my generation, I grew up hunting, fishing, Boy Scouts, spent a lot of time outdoors, and that's what all my friends did. as my children grew up and then now my grandchildren, it's changed quite a bit in motorized recreation, depending on what part of the country. But you could say personal watercraft, snowmobiles, the ATV, side-by-side market, and the four-wheel drive vehicles. The growth rate has been huge. The parks we have around here, and I'll take Windrock Park for example, it's owned by Coal Creek Mining Company. It's in East Tennessee. And that's mainly coal that was depleted, and the strip benches are still there, and so they decided, people were riding up there anyway, and they decided to make that a park. And talking to the CFO there, their growth exceeds 20% a year. And to give you a number, like the permit sales per person is around 100,000. So you can tell the parks are being very successful because there's limited places to ride.
Does that equate to political authority?
It should.
On the side of the
should.
riders?
It does when you talk about public lands.
Yes, yeah.
And
So we're getting stronger in terms of off-roaders, getting more muscular.
Well, I mean, and it is, and it's actually kind of really cool. I mean, it's a big picture kind of thing. It's a long process. Bob's been in it 100 years. And, you know, it's persistence. It's pure persistence. But last year, we were appointed to a OHV advisory committee. So the legislature and the minority leader, no, what is he, the whip, minority whip, Timothy Hill sponsored legislation to create this OHV advisory committee. Appointed 9 members, we grew to 11, and we made some pretty good progress. I was a governor's appointment, you were a speaker's appointment. Steve Melton was a lieutenant governor appointment, because they all three appointed 3. And we had a good group. Mike Farmer became chairman, my associate partner for Novak.
Okay, well, I'm learning a great deal here, and what can we tell off-roaders in Franklin County that are going to be watching this? What can we tell them? How can they get in touch? How can they express their desires? Who are their contact people?
They're elected officials, I say.
correct. That's, again,
So they would
as
go
you
through
talk
their state
about-
representative and senator?
I think they're local government. You have got to have a supportive local government for this off-road, because one of the big deals, Bob and I did we've done presentations, it seems like, we're the road show. But we did a presentation at the symposium, and we did a presentation at the last Greenways and Trails Forum, which was an economic study of that. So the money is huge.
When you talk, I give you a couple examples. Let's say Chrysler or Jeep, they used to put this program on called Camp Jeep. They did it in Fort Collins, Colorado, moved to Virginia, very successful. And so Polaris decided to do a Camp Razor, and could select anywhere in the country they wanted to do it also. But they picked Tennessee, and in one weekend, 3-day weekend, they had 15,000 show up for that. And you start multiplying, gas, food, everybody goes to Walmart, the money that's spent.
$1 million a year operation.
And for the rural areas, it makes 100%. West Virginia is probably the granddaddy of this part of the woods. And they have a network of towns that you can ride your ATVs on the local roads, visit and spend money, kind of like an outdoor adventure area, and they've been very successful, hugely
I think
successful.
it's the #2 revenue source in the state.
Yeah, so you want people to get back in nature. So anyway, my thing has always been elections do matter. You've got to elect people that feel like that off-roading is important, or the views of the people. Like if a bunch of people don't want to do off-roading and they don't want it in their community, then don't have it in your community. I mean, we're not saying have an off-road park in every town, but we're just saying, hey, this is an empowerment issue.
In places like Grundy County, places like Franklin County, Scratchy, Marion, these are all rural communities with acres, thousands of acres.
Oh, and gorgeous acres.
How do we make more of that available to trail riders, and what are the obstacles to getting more trails? And maybe we should talk about obstacles first.
TWRA.
Well, that's a shorthand, but let's look at a bigger.
You've got to want it. Okay, that's the first desire. And I wish that in Tennessee we had actually a Department of Recreation that, you know, had that responsibility. With TWRA, and they're good people,
We
but
love
they'll
them.
tell you,
Yeah, we love them.
they're wildlife management people,
Right.
not recreation people. So it's kind of a stepchild to them. But there is a lot of money involved in it. But the terrain that you normally use, it's not used for anything else. It's not like you can farm it or anything like that. But we've got a lot of land, and it's especially East Tennessee, that, like I said, was originally coal mining, and it's not used today. Like timberland, Brimstone area was
Yeah.
that was timber, and you don't need a large piece of property. You can use what we call vertical mile instead of buying, you know, so many acres in a plot. We'll say you use linear,
Yeah.
right? 20, 30 feet wide, 100 miles long, maybe, you know. But in reality, it doesn't use that much of the land. The other thing is, you know, I grew up, and I guess I consider myself an environmentalist, in how you take care of trails. You have to have designated trails that you can stay on and manage the trail, because they do take management. If you have open riding, which BLM land is open riding, okay, then you go anywhere and it's hard to maintain that. Now the terrain's different out west, you know, it's a lot more, a lot rockier, doesn't erode as fast as what it does here. So that's another big thing. To be on the designated trails, I think organized groups, when you say Southern four-wheel drive, people like that, we promote the best in that. I know our club, we've got these trasharoo bags, we keep on the bag.
Yeah.
And we clean up and pick up and do our best to take care of everything. But the growth rate of motorized recreation is, you can't turn your head any longer. It keeps growing, it keeps growing.
And they're going to go somewhere. I mean, one major issue is trespassing. You know, like during this, when we had our big events, one of the things that killed it was that people, not even from around here, would come in and then cut down fences to places that they had gone to on that fun weekend. So they were doing, you know, they were going into people's yards. In our neck of woods, man, you just, you know, you don't go in someone's land. So you start getting into trespassing issues. You know, we're very strong private property rights. Locals are very private. You need to have a managed system of trails for people who want to go off-road that don't know anybody who has a piece of land that they can ride on. They also need to know how to do it wisely. Just like, you know, bicyclists, if you don't ride on the right side of the road, if you're a novice at it, man, you're going to get killed. You know what I'm saying? And one of the biggest things that came out of this council, because it had, you know, TWRA at the table and it had TDEC at the table, and one of the things is we need a safety program. You know, our kids are dying because they just don't know the right way to ride an ATV. You know, they're buying these machines that are too big, they're not right helmets, you know, and hey, if you're an adult, man, have at it, kill yourself. That's up to you. That is a personal responsibility to you. But the kids, man, we need to start teaching our kids how to do this right. So a safety program was our biggest, I think, thing out of the council.
Is this something that you are asking the state to do, or is this something that OHV people are stepping up to the plate and saying, well, we can run this program?
I won't say that we do that. Again, I'm going to use Southern four-wheel drive.
I got you.
It's part of educational. We've got educational videos that we produce that are, you know, they're online. You can use them. What we worked on was that, you know, when you address specifically the state of Tennessee and where the accident or death rate is on those vehicles, to come up with a program to say, okay, we're going to show you the right way. And when you purchase one, if you're younger, you should go through that. It's hard to mandate, I think, that, but it's got to be available, and you have to encourage.
Just like boating safety,
Yeah,
there are training
sure.
courses to get boating.
And right, and that was their theory on that, was that they're already set in place for voting. They did it successfully, but it would be only on public land. Let me just preface this really quick on this. I am a less government kind of gal, you know, so I think government likes to help way too much. So what this would be is an empowerment issue, that if you wanted to ride on public land, the more land that we provide, right, then you just wear your helmet. You follow these guidelines. You do it safely, you don't trash, you know, whatever. It starts That's where government's most greatest effectiveness is to create a culture. Well, here's the right way to do it. You know, what you do on your own land is up to you. Honestly, that's up to you. So,
what I'm hearing is that there's really we are growing in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Toward sort of a political solution to some of these problems, and I think politics is involved because the TWRA, we like them, but they too admit they're reluctant monitors of this program. They really don't have the time for it to be game
there's no money.
managers.
They can't spend resources.
And your words about Department of Recreation, it's very unlikely that Governor Haslam is going to let another department come into Tennessee when he's trying to get them out. But maybe that's something that we look to local governments to step up and
that's what we're
start these
encouraging.
things.
I compare it to, if you're in, say, the Pigeon Forge area and you say Dollywood, we used to have Opryland right here.
Yeah.
Those are people that we want to say, come to Tennessee. We'll put our arms around, spend your money here, stay with us.
Twirl you
everything like
around,
that.
show you a good time.
That same thing can happen with motorized recreation.
Yes.
But you have to invite it, want it, and that hadn't been the atmosphere that, yes, we want more people doing this, or more people coming in. We mentioned the public-private venture.
And I know, and I hate to do this, but I got that time thing.
Okay.
I got that little click. So
Oh.
that is from the heaven above.
Oh, yeah?
So wrap it up.
Okay, well, I will, and you started to say something. I'm going to ask you to finish. You're talking about the.
Okay, I'll do it real quick.
Okay.
Sheila Westray was a person from Ohio that came down and used to ride in what we called the Royal Blue area, wildlife management area. No place to stay, and she worked out a deal where she bought land that joined the Royal Blue land. She built the parking lots, the campgrounds, the cabins, everything like that, and administers the fees for TWRA to ride on that land. So she was able to create kind of the trailhead. The trails were already there, but it became very successful, and she didn't have to buy any land. So it was good for the state and good for her.
There's opportunity for partnerships,
Correct.
lots of partnerships. I'm going to quick close and let you close out your show. I want to thank everyone for watching the Franklin County Buzz and our guests, Iva Michelle Russell and Bob Yarbrough. Thank you very much for joining us here on the mountain, and thank you for inviting us. I've had a great time.
This has been fun, hasn't it?
Oh, I've learned an awful lot.
Me
Thank
too.
you. Take it away. It's
All
your
right.
show.
Well, we're going to go on a quick break and we'll go back to our regularly scheduled program, trade line, birthdays, anniversaries, cool things going on. So grab some coffee, sit back, and we're going to be back in a second.
Between the two of them, I have a much better idea now about how off-roaders can get a word out about trails and events. The Buzz gives a thanks and a shout out to Iva and Bob, and to, oh, that was a noise, and to GCTV6 for letting us sit in on this great community resource. And thanks to you too, Franklin County, for joining us today. Happy trails.